Exclamation, everybody. And welcome back to Cube Ramblings. We're picking up where I left off here in the world. Probably going to take on this guy here. We'll see how successful I am at that. It's also becoming nightfall, so it's going to be one of those episodes where it's going to be mostly dark out. But we will make do as we tend to do. For me, it is a Saturday night, May the 10th, 2001. This is 2001. Wow, I've gone back in time. 2014. Let's try that. This is episode 42, I believe, all told, of my Cube World series here. It's only, I think, episode 11 of my Cube Ramblings podcast, and then of course there was what I call season 0 that came prior to this that had about 30 some odd episodes or so. Mostly born out of the fact that I still really enjoy this game a hell of a lot, but it's not something that I'd probably play every week unless I had an excuse to do so, and this gives me a nice excuse to do so, and also keeps me from blathering on in some of my other series that go on, particularly Livecraft Mine and stuff, so I can actually get some work done in there, get some building job done on that. So as I mentioned at the end of last episode last week, I still have a bunch of stuff on my list here that I didn't get to because I ended up rambling on for quite some time there, particularly with a lot of the news articles and stuff that came up. And I have a few more news articles, not as many as I had last time, but a few things going on, a few things I want to talk about. So what I'll do here is I'll jump right into sort of the Greenlight / Kickstarter stuff that I've been following. I mentioned several weeks ago Pop-Up Dungeon, that Kickstarter I contributed to. That's a cool little sort of papercraft RPG video game. So it's all the characters look like they would be papercraft stuff. All the props and all the sets and everything else would look like something that you would do on your desktop. But then it's got the normal mechanics of an RPG with roguelike elements in it. So you go up against a wizard who is trying his darndest to kill the heck out of you. And every time you play through, after you die, you get to choose a perk or non-perk to take into the next, there's like a little shell game or something like that you take into the next time you play. And it gives you a little bit of a nice randomization effect to the game. So very cool. They are up to, they're almost to their goal. Their goal was $80,000 to raise. They're at $72,741. There's 7 days left on it, which is a good thing because as we all know, that last 48 hours tends to be when Kickstarter projects really take off, because everybody who said "remind me later" starts getting their reminders. And given that they're this close to the 80 grand that they needed, I feel pretty confident that they're going to get over that last hurdle, which is awesome. I think it looks like a nice little take on a game. Nice little, I guess, customization to the normal RPG-ish stuff and roguelike stuff. So that is cool. You might want to go check that out. I'll obviously always, as always, leave links in the description to everything I talk about, usually, unless I find that there's no real reason to put a link there, but in this case there will be one. And then another one that I started to follow, that I contributed to actually several weeks ago, and I don't think I've talked about this at all because I have it well fleshed out here on my notes, and I don't have it marked off as something I've said. So this game is called the Universe Sim. Universe Sim. It is a That's the best way I can describe it. I wrote here Populous at a planetary level. It's sort of like Populous. It's nothing like Goddess, and really nothing like Populous. I really, I was struggling to find words to describe it. It's almost Sim Earth-ish, if you've ever played Sim Earth from back in the days, except you're not necessarily controlling, you're a godlike creature, but you're not directly controlling things from what I can gather. So what I mean by that is you can influence your colonists, your citizens, whatever you want to call them, and say, they should set up shop here or set up shop there. And you can influence their research tree, what kind of technologies they research and whatnot. But I don't think you actually take, from what I read, it doesn't look like you actually take physical control of them. Which is why I sort of said it's kind of like Populous, because in Populous you didn't really take control of the actual minions or anything like that. You just kind of put Ankas down and had them, had their priests go around and do stuff, and you sort of influenced them from the sidelines a little bit. Although in Populous you did influence a lot with the actual building, the shaping of the terrain and all that stuff. It doesn't look like you do that in this. It doesn't look like you actually shape terrain in this, but what you do is there are several biomes on the planet, and you can say, hey, what did they call it? They have a particular name for it here. I wonder if I wrote it down. No, I don't think I didn't write it down here, unfortunately. But it's they're basically like gathering points that you put down. They have a special name for it, but you basically put those around the planet and you say, okay, here, start to build here, or gather here and start to build your civilizations here. And there's also special buildings along the way that you can actually place down yourself. But for the most part, you're sort of on the sidelines, but also you're influencing from a more, I guess, metaphysical way. Instead of actually physically manifesting yourself, you're manifesting yourself through their determinations and their drives, which sounds really cool. And the idea is you start out with basically cavemen, essentially, and drive them through the eras, drive them through the years, and they slowly, you drive their researches and their technologies and all that stuff, get them to the space age, and then once you've got them to the space age, they can then go off and start colonizing other planets, and you can go look around at some of the other planets and pick and choose where they go, pick and choose what research they do, because some of the planets are inhospitable to the point where you can't actually, there's no breathable atmosphere or anything like that, so you might want to influence them to send, say, probes and whatnot, and then change their technology around to maybe they would have automated terraformers that go out there and try to terraform the planet before anyone arrives, or have special gear like, spacesuits and whatnot. And then along the way, you have various challenges that you run into, obviously. So one of the ones that they've said here is you would have to deal with viruses. So I believe they said something like 12 different viruses would be in the game, where your population can become infected, and then it could turn into an epidemic, and you'll have to devote some research to curing it, or before you lose all of your people. All the planets will have seasons, so as you're going along, you have to manage your population from that perspective. Try to make sure that they're always researching things that will help them get through the winter, or planting seasons, and various biomes that are kind of inhospitable to them. Wherever you decide to say, hey, plunk down a city here or a town here, if that's in a desert biome, then they're going to have a whole lot of trouble trying to actually grow crops and have that colony take off. So you'll have to try to get them to research desert farming and desert irrigation and all those little technologies like that. Sounds really cool. Of all the God games I've seen out there, like I looked briefly at Goddess, which is by the guy who originally did Populous, and it was okay. I didn't. It wasn't blowing my socks off in any kind of respect. And then there's other sort of godlike games around. I know Cheffy has been playing, and Paul Source Jr. as well has been playing this other game called Craft the World, where you are sort of a dwarven god, and you're directing your dwarves to do things on your behalf, and it looks like Terraria, like a 2D side slice planet and all that stuff. And I qualify that as a sort of a godlike game because you're not necessarily directly doing things yourself. You're not a player in the game. You're just kind of directing your minions to do things for you, that kind of thing. There's also a game. I'm just remembering this now that I have around here somewhere. That has just come back to my mind. That this sort of reminds me of, but on a much smaller scale. We've all heard of Dungeon Keeper, and I played a little bit of Dungeon Keeper back in the day. It never really it wasn't that appealing to me. But there was another game, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of it. But you were it was very much in the style of Dungeon Keeper, and you were like an evil scientist. Now I wonder if did I ever buy that game or did I just play the demo for it? I don't remember if I actually had that game purchased or if I only played the demo of it. But it's you're sort of an evil genius, a mad scientist type of guy, and you have to, much like Dungeon Keeper, you build up an evil lair, and you do all research all the technologies and all that stuff, and then you have your minions go off and do nefarious deeds, and you have to defend your keep, your mad lab, if you will. From heroes and there was like a shield organization that was out to get you and all that stuff, and it was pretty cool. I do not remember the name of it. I just can't. It's not registering in my brain case right now, which is not unusual for me as far as names go. I'm really really bad with names. But that, for some reason, that just popped into my mind when I was thinking about like the godlike games that I've played that I thought were kind of cool. I never played Black and White, that game. I know that was kind of critically acclaimed, and then I guess it really depends on who you talk to. So a lot of people really liked that game, and a lot of people really didn't. And I know Black and White 2 was sort of panned, but I never actually played those games. What else? In the godlike game area, have I done? I really can't. I mean, obviously, I played Populous back in the day. I played that on the Nintendo, I believe. I believe that was on the NES. And yeah, that's about all the ones I can think of. So yeah, it's funny because I was just thinking about this game and thinking about that, and it just made me think of all the God games that I've played or haven't played. So if you're into that kind of thing, and it looks really interesting to me, I like sort of what they're going for. Still a lot of open questions. I don't know that they have anything playable yet. At least I haven't seen anything yet. But it's sounds like a really cool concept. Their Kickstarter right now, there's 13 days left on their Kickstarter, so we're getting down to the nitty gritty there. They're trying to raise $320,000, and they're up to $200,305 right now. So they're over a major hump there, but they still got quite a bit of room to go. before they get to their goal there. Pretty much 119,700 roughly dollars to reach their goal. So there's a big push there that's going to be needed, and hopefully they can get their marketing together and start getting people out there to take a look at their Kickstarter. I actually ran across them. I believe I ran across Universe Sim because they were greenlit on Steam, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't actually write that down, so don't quote me on that. But I believe that's where I initially found them. I think either that or somebody on Twitter favorited it, and I happened to see it. I don't remember which. But yeah, that's a cool thing. Also, all the planets are all dynamically generated. So, and I believe they made a mention of allowing you to see the seed for your world and enter seeds for your world, so that you can then share it with with your friends, and then you can all sort of have a challenge to go and say who went and got the furthest and did the best in the shortest amount of time, or that kind of thing. I believe they've mentioned that at some point. So really cool. And then speaking of the green light stuff, back on April 29th, and I had this on my list for last week, and I didn't get a chance to really talk about it. But back on April 29th, 75 more games were greenlit. I'm not going to go through the whole list because, again, majority of them I've never heard of before, or they just look kind of weird or strange, and I don't know what to make of them. But I went through the list and I picked out the ones that that caught my attention for various reasons. The first one, of course, was Arcade Craft. Now, I have already released a video of that last week, where I did a little side quest video on it. That is an arcade simulator, arcade management simulator game that goes back to the golden era of arcades. So 1980 it starts out in, and you're supposed to take your arcade through the ages and just manage it. It's a lot like game dev. What was that? What was the name of that game? Game Dev Manager or whatever it was. Again, names, terrible at names. Where you had to manage an indie or a gaming development company, and you manage what games they developed and all their budgets and all that stuff. Very similar vein to that. In this one, you own a casino. You own an arcade, and you can upgrade your arcade. You buy arcade cabinets for it. You have to make sure you keep the cabinets up to date. You make sure you keep them repaired. There was also a mention, and I didn't see it in game, and maybe I just completely missed it, but there was a mention that you could potentially actually play some of the arcade games. I have a feeling somebody was pulling my leg there on that one, but perhaps that's in there. I don't know. But I was more interested in the, you're trying to keep all of your, the kids happy and bring that money in, and you're paying your rent and all that stuff. Pretty cool thing. I like what I saw there. It's still in, I believe it's in beta right now, and that's what I played on my video. You can go check out my video on it, side quest video, and quite a bit of fun. I got my eye on it. I'm going to keep my eye on it, and we'll see where that goes from there. Another one I picked off the list, Collateral. I haven't talked about Collateral in ages. Collateral is back, I believe, my first episode of Cube World that I actually turned into a podcast. So it's probably like episode 8 or 9, I believe. So it's been quite a while since I last talked about Collateral. That was one of the first Kickstarters as well that I actually got involved with. They had a successful Kickstarter, and I was a part of it. And I actually have their alpha game here, and they've updated it several times. I just haven't sat down and updated it. I actually played it, so I know how it works, how it plays, but I haven't played it in a while. They've been doing a lot to the game. They upgraded it to, they were using the Unreal Engine, but they were using the the indie portion of it, or I forget what they call it. It was the light version of the Unreal Engine, and now they've upgraded to a full licensed Unreal Engine, the Unreal Engine for their game, and so they're in the process of recoding it quite a bit because they're running up against memory limitations and various other performance issues that they were having, and now that they have the full licensed version of that engine, they can sort of overcome a lot of that stuff. They get access to all the source code and all that fun stuff. So they were just greenlit on the 29th. I intend on getting a video out, a side quest video out of that in whatever state it's in soon. I have quite a few on my list though before I get to that that I need to actually get around to. I'm trying to right now. I'm trying to get through all of Ethereum and Mirror's Edge and just get that completely recorded so that's done and ready to go, and then that will take up less of my time as far as editing and all that stuff, and then I can focus more on getting a few other things in the pipeline. I'm actually further. I have more stuff recorded, more videos recorded now in my backlog, not necessarily edited but recorded, than I ever have had since I started my channel. So it was a good idea, I think, for me to change my schedule like I did. It was a very good idea for me to change my schedule like I did. So that is a cool thing to look at. Let's see what else. Oh, Kart Sim. I saw this on the list of. Oh, by the way, before I move on, Collateral. What is Collateral? It's described as, well, basically it's Crazy Taxi in sort of a dystopian future, very similar to like the Fifth Element movie. So you're basically a hovering taxi cab, and you go around doing various missions, and you know your cab's got guns and all that stuff, and it's pretty cool. It's I like where they're going with it. I originally got attracted to it because I've been looking high and low for a good sort of racing game kind of thing, and this was the thing that tied me over until actual racing games come out. So that's what got me interested in it. So that is what Collateral is. Now, speaking of the racing games, what I was just about to talk about, Kart Sim. I saw this on the list of recently greenlit titles. Never heard of it before, but I looked at it, and it's apparently a multiplayer kart racing / sandbox stunt game. So in other words, the primary mode of it is multiplayer, where you're actually doing like the little mini kart racing. Which hang on one second, I think I have to cough here. Sorry about that. My apologies. Had to get a little cough out there, and I didn't want to do it with the mic not muted. So yeah, it's a kart racing game, multiplayer focused. You know, little go-kart thingies with the badass motors in them. It looks really interesting. It had like an animated GIF as its sort of teaser, and it looks the visuals on it look really cool. I mean, it's looking almost like a Project Cars sort of level of detail, but a little less. I mean, I don't think they've gone to that level of visual detail, but it looked pretty awesome. And I've been looking for a racing game for quite some time, so I want to take a look at that. The multiplayer, as I said, is for the racing, and then the single player is mostly to do the stunts. So there's apparently going to be like stunt courses that you can go on and do little stunts with your go-kart, and that is where you would do with the single player stuff. So I'm gonna take a look at that. I don't know if there's any demo or anything out there yet. I just happened to run across it while I was looking down the list, and I thought, oh, this is something that has caught my eye. Another one, Neon Shadow. This one caught my eye. I hadn't heard of it either. This one was just recently greenlit. It describes itself as a Halo-like FPS. Now, I'm not a big FPS guy, but I am a big FPS guy in some cases, if that makes any sense. There are certain games that will override my normal sensibility. So, for instance, I'm not big into like the military shooter things. I just find them boring. I really do. It just, even like the modern warfare type of stuff where it's you got these badass futuristic weapons and stuff. Even that, it's just I don't. It's too. I don't know. It's too gritty for my taste, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why that's a problem for me, but it just is. I can't really articulate it. But then, you know, in the same breath, I love the sci-fi, I guess, sort of candy-coated sci-fi stuff, like Halo. Like, I've played almost all the Halo games. Well, I played some of the Halo games. I didn't play the original Halo, and I didn't play Halo 2. I say that with an asterisk because I did play with my brother Halo 2 and the original Halo, but I that was just a rental. We didn't, you know, it wasn't a purchase. I didn't play through the whole campaign, but I played the other ones. I played Halo 3 all the way through. I played ODST all the way through. I played Reach all the way through. I have Halo 4 sitting on the TV right now, and I've only played the first mission, and that's it. That's as far as I went with it. So eventually I'll probably get back to that. But yeah, I like those games. So when it came out and said, oh, this is going to be like a Halo-like game, I thought, I got to take a look at this. It's the reason I like the Halo-like FPS shooters is because I feel like it's more responsive to my controls. I feel like, you know, you get like an overshield, so you get, or a shield and an overshield and all that stuff, which gives you a little bit of room for wiggle room, a little bit of wiggle room in there. And then on top of that, your character sort of, I wouldn't say feels fluid, but they feel like, they feel a little floaty. And I kind of like a little floatiness in my FPSs, believe it or not. Whenever I sit down for like and I look at something that's like Arma or one of those military shooters, they try to model your characters very closely to where it's, you know, they're bogged down by the weight of their packs and all that stuff, and that's okay. But I just don't. I find that I need something that's a little bit more responsive, but also forgiving in the controls, because you know, if I sit down and play, especially with a mouse and keyboard, and I crank the sensitivity up, if I can't hit the broadside of the barn when I crank the sensitivity up, then there's problems. I'm not going to be having fun with the game. So, and it always felt like, even regardless of how much I cranked up the sensitivity on Halo, it always felt like it felt fluid. It felt like I was still in control, and I could do things, you know, be maneuverable and be able to actually compete with the game. So that's why that caught my attention. It's, you know, obviously it's a sci-fi FPS, and if I'm not mistaken, it's you're basically a badass ninja, badass sci-fi ninja game, if I remember correctly, which is also hard to not want to take a look at and see what that involves. So that is what I have on that. The next thing I listed out here is Outcast Reboot HD. Apparently this is a reboot of the game Outcast, which was created in 1999. I've never played the game. It looks like it has a sort of a theme that I would be interested in, but I have no idea what it is, to be honest with you. I don't know if anybody out there, listening to this has played Outcast before. If you have, maybe this is something you want to look at because they're doing this reboot thing. It caught my eye because I have no idea. I've never heard of the game Outcast before, and I really made this note more so that I'd go look up what the hell Outcast actually is and what the old game was, and see if it was something that would be up my alley or not. So, but I figured since I left the note, I might as well relay it as well. Retro World is another one that I picked off the list there. It's inspired by Earthbound, the Earthbound games, which I've never played, but I've seen a lot of playthroughs of it, so I understand sort of some of the things with Earthbound. The idea here is you're thrown into a parallel universe where classic video games come to life, and you're basically going through this whole video game world with all these video game characters, and it's an RPG. You just go through and you've got a storyline, and it's very cartoony, the graphics and whatnot, very much like Earthbound and all that stuff. So that might be an interesting one to take a look at too if you're into that kind of thing. And then also the last one I picked off the list, Sky Nations. I don't think I've ever mentioned Sky Nations. I've had Sky Nations on my computer for quite some time now. I actually tried to record a video, and I did actually record a video very early on in my channel, but I never released it because it wasn't very good. Sky Nations is, and it's a I was going to say Minecraft in Sky, but the creator of Sky Nations really hates being compared to Minecraft, and rightfully so, because it's not really the same thing. It's more like, it's a voxel-based game. Let's put it that way. It's a voxel-based game where you build these giant floating, basically ships in the sky. The planet that you're on, the ground is no longer habitable, so all the residents took up, living in the sky and these sky islands. And it's multiplayer focused, entirely multiplayer focused. So you basically jump in there. If you ever played Guns of Icarus, right, and you thought to yourself, which is another like sort of balloon blimp, flying ship multiplayer game. If you ever played that and you thought, hey, it would be kind of cool if I could actually build these ships myself, that's pretty much Sky Nations, except the graphical fidelity is a little bit different. It's an indie game, so the graphical fidelity is not the same, but it is very familiar to those of us who've played Minecraft or Terraria or Starbound or anything like that. Although it's all 3D, it's not 2D, and it's kind of cool. I tried to as I said, record stuff and play in it. The big problem I had was that, it's entirely multiplayer. So as soon as you start building something, it can take quite some time to build because you got to gather all the resources and everything else. You got to mine for stuff. It can take quite a bit of time to actually build a respectable ship, and it's on a multiplayer server, so the game never sleeps, right? So you go and hide your ship somewhere, and while you're gone, somebody else is going around looking for stuff, and then they just find your ship and loot it and destroy it, usually, or whatever happens to come by, and then you're back to square one again. And I had a couple of instances where I was trying to build something, because I was trying to do it sort of like a Minecraft play, where I just build something respectable and then go off and try to murder people. But every time I got a certain amount of distance into it, I would get found by somebody else on the server and just get annihilated. So that's the main reason why I haven't made any videos of that. I might still make one at some point. I just have to get back into it. It's one of those things where it's a sandbox game, so it takes a level of time that I don't really have because I already have a sandbox game. I already play Minecraft, so it's hard to find time to do more than one. As you can tell by the fact that I haven't been back to Starbound for a while. Even though I want to get back to it at some point, I just can't right now. I don't, the time. It's a time thing. So all of that is cool. Those are the ones I picked off the list there. Now, I'm kind of, I'm realizing now, I'm about 36 minutes into this, and I'm realizing that I meant to start off not with the Kickstarter updates, but with the most important update, which is there's new information now on Cube World. And I meant to lead off with this, but oh well, I guess nobody's going to hear it. Because those who watch this tend to watch only if, like, according to my analytics, I get about 3 to 5 minutes of actual watch time from people. So that is long since passed. So I guess a lot of people aren't going to get an update. But for those of you who have stuck around, Cube World is going to get there's some more information. I was going to say Cube World is going to get an update, but I have no idea when. There's no ETA yet. But Wale has tweeted out some more information and made a blog post about the quest system. So I mentioned a couple times that the questing system has been the main focus that Wally's been doing for the last couple months, and originally it was going to be you're going to have all these quest markers. There's going to be like an MMO like structure where you have all these quest markers on your map. You go to them, you get a quest giver, and then you go off to various places and try to fulfill all the items or the aspects of the quest. But now it sounds like Wally wasn't really happy with the whole MMO style of quest giving and has decided to just rip all that out and go with something that's a little bit more a lot more exploration based, which puts it more in line with the way you play Cube World now, right? The way you play Cube World now is you walk out into the world, you explore, you run across things, and you conquer them as you run across them. It's basically up to the player to determine what path they take and what pace they keep up and what challenges they go after. And the new questing system is also going to follow that same pattern where the quests are going to be generated. Now, from what Wally said, the quests are going to be generated very early on. Now, I don't know if they're going to be generated when the world is generated, but they're going to be generated before you get to the area of the world that contains them. And I don't know what that radius is. I imagine there's going to be a radius, but it might be more of a, when your world is generated, that's it. The quests are there, and that's what you get. That's what you get. You get what you get. Which has some problems around it, but I'll get to that in a minute. I want to get the information out first. So the information that we have is that basically there's no quest givers. The NPCs at towns will give you hints like they do now, which is cool. I like that. I like that idea. There won't be any map markers, but as we mentioned earlier in the last update, there will be signs along the way. So you can run across a sign in the wilderness and it'll tell you what's upcoming. So that will help a little bit. And there's going to be a quest journal in addition to a quest bag. So you'll have an additional menu item for just quest-related items, and then a journal of some kind to sort of track your progress on each of the quests. And basically the way you're going to come across them is you just basically do what you do now. You find a castle, you find whatever, you defeat the boss of the castle or defeat the boss that's out in the world, and they might drop something. They'll drop some kind of quest loot. So they might drop a key, say, and you have to go find what the key fits. And you'll obviously get hints along the way from NPCs and whatnot, but that's basically the way it goes. It's very, very organic, which I like. I like the idea of that. I like that he's not taking the traditional MMO style to it, because then it really does, the pace of the game is really dictated by you. Now, the problem with that, there's a couple problems. One is that obviously he's generating quests before you've actually gotten to that area of the world. Now, whether it's generating them throughout the universe, I doubt it, but there's probably a large radius upon which the quests actually get generated, which means that the world is going to be as procedurally generated as the world is. It's going to be a little less procedurally generated from that respect. I mean, once you've got a seed, you pretty much know what quests you're going to get out of that seed, which is good and bad, I guess. I mean, it's good from the perspective of if you wanted to share, if you want to do like a speed run with somebody, you could say, here, use this seed, and then generate that seed, and then you both go off on your own and do your speed running and whatnot. But it's something. I'm kind of leery about it, but I have to really see it to see what it's like. I like the idea that it stays organic, much like Cube World is. So that's kind of cool. I like that. In addition to that, we're getting teleportation. So obviously we've already talked about the teleportation with where you can teleport to towns now. In addition to that, in a multiplayer server, you can teleport close to your other party members, to your friends. You can't teleport directly to them, but it'll teleport to the nearest respawn statue. So that was also announced. So some cool things coming down, very cool things. Right now he says he's working on some more quest variations and items and loot and all that stuff. Lots and lots of screenshots. There was a screenshot of a dwarf in a pot that you had to save from being cooked alive. Those kinds of things. It looks really cool. I saw someone in a like an elf in a cage as well. So I cannot wait. There is no ETA yet, but hopefully it will be coming to us very, very soon. But I believe I am getting to the end of my rope here as far as this episode. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.